Chapter 2695. Just thinking about it made Shui burst into tears uncontrollably. Shui clan. After that incident, there were only the three of them left in this world. For 1,000,000 years, they had never met. Even when they met, they would look at each other coldly. They were hostile to each other and even fought to the death. Today, they finally met as siblings, but in the blink of an eye, they had to part forever. Cloud Master, I must kill you. I must grind your bones and scatter your ashes to vent my hatred. Since it was the East Sovereign's people who had encountered the Cloud Master, the other two sides naturally had no way to intercept him. Chu Yang and the others sped all the way but found nothing. They didn't rest at all and rushed toward purple cloud heavens at full speed. The Saints' target was obviously purple cloud heavens, and they didn't know how much Tan Tan had improved during this period of time. The other generations of brothers were obviously no match for the Saint. If the difference in their strength was too great, even the indestructible golden body wouldn't be of much use. No matter how hard a turtle shell was, as long as there was a sharper chisel, it could be chiseled open. Chu Yang was afraid that he would see a tragedy when he arrived. Therefore, he didn't dare to be negligent along the way. Even if he and the others couldn't intercept Master Yun in person, they must reach purple cloud heavens before him. They must reach Tan Tan and the other seniors. They must stop the tragedy from happening. Fortunately, they weren't far from their destination, purple cloud heavens. There was a cliff in front of them. Chu Yang's eyes focused and he waved his hand. Everyone stopped what they were doing. This cliff wasn't here the last time they passed by. But this time, it seemed to have appeared out of thin air. Chu Yang was confident that he didn't take the wrong path, but what was with this cliff? What did it mean? What did it mean? Could it be that there were experts who had fought here? When they walked in front, everyone finally saw clearly that this was a mountain. But not long ago, half of it had been cut away, revealing a section that was as straight and smooth as a mirror. The reason why it was said not long ago was that the section was as smooth as a mirror. It wouldn't be like this if it wasn't long ago. The surrounding geography was special. Over the years, wind and sand had been blowing and eroding it. As long as it was a little longer, it would inevitably be eroded by the wind and sand, and would no longer be smooth. Secondly, there were a few lines of words written on it, and the content of the words proved that it was left behind not long ago. This is Cloud Lord's handwriting. Mo Tianji had studied everything about Master Yun. So, he was very familiar with Master Yun's handwriting. Therefore, he recognized it at a glance. Everyone's hearts trembled. Their group had chased so quickly, but they still hadn't caught up. They all looked over. Whether it's good or evil, it's good. Time. Good or evil, we are companions for life. Whether it is love or hate, I will let it go in this life. Whether it was enmity or kindness, they would part forever. There were only a few short sentences, and it seemed that he hadn't finished writing them yet. There was another sentence below: humans and immortals walk different paths. Then, there was Cloud Lord's signature. The words on the wall were filled with a heavy meaning, as well as a strong sense of melancholy and loss. Could it be that Shuexian is dead? Chu Yang and Mo Tianji stared intently at these words, and the same question arose in their hearts. Eternal parting, and different paths, it seemed to indicate many things. Also, Cloud Lord and Shuexian one human and one immortal? What did this mean? Was it just the literal meaning, or was there more to it? It should be that Shuexian is dead. Saint Monarch and the others encountered the other two groups of people who were chasing them. After a huge battle, the Saint Empress fell, and Cloud Lord fled here. Mo Tianji frowned and said, the only problem is that even if Shuexian is really dead, with Cloud Lord's character, he shouldn't be so sorrowful. He is someone who could even kill his own father. Moreover, it can be seen that he hates Shuexian a lot. This matter is really hard to understand. Chu Yang also didn't understand this. Through their previous interactions, Yun Shangren's disgust toward Shuexian were definitely not feigned. But what did he mean by these words today? Cloud Master is clearly mourning. Naturally, The two of them didn't know that Cloud Lord had always hated and disliked Xuexian, but he only hated the Xuexian that he created. Or it could be said that Cloud Lord hated the Saint Empress. However, Yun Shengren was genuinely fond of the real Xuexian. Moreover, Xuexian carried Cloud Lord's spirit of true love, a spirit of true love that couldn't be formed without true love. Everyone crossed the cliff, and Chu Yang and the others continued on their way. Now wasn't a good time to decipher the words. It wasn't a good thing that Cloud Lord had left his words here. This undoubtedly meant that Cloud Lord was already ahead of them. Perhaps, he was already attacking the first bridge, attacking Tan Tan and the others. Other than these puzzled words, Chu Yang and Mo Tianji also discovered something else. The saint's abilities seemed to have weakened further. From the saint's handwriting, this could be clearly felt. This was a weakening of the saint's origin. Those who weren't at the peak of the saint realm wouldn't be able to sense it. If it weren't for the fact that Chu Yang had already reached this realm and Mo Tianji was extremely familiar with Master Yun's handwriting, it would really be hard for them to sense it. If not, even the East Emperor Demon Empress wouldn't be able to notice it. This kind of weakening came from the origin, and it meant that Saint Monarch's strength would never return to its peak. He would only become weaker for a while. Chu Yang was confident that he could deal with Saint Monarch in this state alone, and he wouldn't be harmed at all. This discovery made Chu Yang and Mo Tianji more optimistic about the success of this trip. However, they didn't tell everyone about this discovery because they didn't want to weaken their fighting spirit. 2 days later, Chu Yang and his team arrived at the first bridge. They saw that the bridge was as peaceful as before. It seemed as if nothing had happened. Chu Yang and the others heaved a sigh of relief. It was fine as long as there were no further movements. Everyone was still safe. On the other side, shouts shook the heavens and the earth. It was definitely the extraterrestrial demons attacking, and the experts here, including Tan Tan and a group of seniors, were blocking them. This kind of battle happened every day, every hour, every moment. However, when Chu Yang paid closer attention to the scene in front of him, all of a sudden, his complexion changed drastically. "What's wrong?" Mo Tianji asked. Saint Monarch wasn't here yet, so why was Chu Yang's expression so ugly? White fog. Chu Yang took a deep breath. It's about to disappear. Mo Tianji frowned and looked over. Chu Yang frowned tightly. The last time he came, he was quite far away. He could only see the thick white fog from afar, and he couldn't even see the first bridge itself. Even when he was on the first bridge, he couldn't see the bridge deck or the people on the other side. But now, they were still more than 10,000 feet away. But he could already see the first bridge clearly. This change was too shocking. In less than 2 years, more than half of the crucial white fog guarding the heavenly watchtower continent had disappeared. This speed of disappearance was too fast, wasn't it? It was too shocking. Chu Yang looked up at the sky, and he saw that there seemed to be layers of ripples in the endless sky. That was the barrier of the thick fog, and it was constantly being shaken and weakened. It was being annihilated. Tianji. Chu Yang's expression was heavy, and he said word by word, "Let the Tianji Intelligence Department send the order immediately. Send out all forces to fight against the heavenly demons. We must rush to the purple cloud heavens in the shortest time possible, no matter the cost. We must be quick." Chu Yang's voice sounded unusually urgent. Mo Tianji instinctively realized the seriousness of the situation. He immediately took out the Tianji hand and sent out the order. As the Tianji hand glowed brightly, an urgent order was sent out. "What's going on?" Mo Tianji asked. Mo Tianji had never been to the first bridge. Although he knew the importance of the first bridge's white fog, he had never seen it with his own eyes. He didn't understand the original situation of the white fog as well as Chu Yang did. Chu Yang frowned, pointed at the white fog, and explained softly. Mo Tianji's expression changed greatly. Looking at the thin white fog, he couldn't help but be deeply worried. "How long is this white fog?" "I don't know. You'll have to ask the previous robbers," Chu Yang said. A few people walked down from the first bridge at this time. They laughed from afar and said, "Minister Chu, it's a joyous occasion for the newlyweds. They were Ji Huitian and the others. Chu Yang smiled and walked forward quickly. Just as he was about to speak, his expression suddenly changed, and he turned back. Slightly behind him, a strange smoke rose into the sky. A crazy destructive force that could fill up the world, mixed with some kind of inconceivable hysteria, was rushing toward them at an extremely fast speed. This crazy force was accompanied by an undisguised and terrifying murderous intent, and a murderous heart of death. Everyone, face the enemy. Chu Yang roared, and he jumped up. Standing in the air, a light flashed in his hand, and the calamity sword appeared. At the first moment, the sword light was dazzling, and it turned into a long dragon that connected the sky and the earth, colliding head-on with the destructive force without backing down. Almost at the same time, Mo Qingwu's heavenly dance, together with the Qingwu dream saber, spun. Zi Xieching's purple cloud emperor's seal also showed a magnificent light, and it suddenly took shape, spinning rapidly in the air. Chu Le-er's sword light flashed, and it merged with Mo Tianji's purple jade flute into a ray of colorful light, rushing forward. And Ji Mo's sword also rushed out. Brother Hu roared, shaking his head and wagging his tail in the air, revealing his ferocious true body. The calamity spirit dissipated silently in the world, turning into a faint, almost invisible gray fog, entangling in an almost traceless manner. The smoke in the distance instantly rushed closer, and it turned out to be a person who brought death and destruction. Behind him, smoke and dust filled the sky, and it spread no less than a few hundred miles, still billowing. A crazy murderous intent that had never been seen before almost completely engulfed the whole world. The person who came was Master Cloud. Today is our little sister Mo Rant's birthday. Let us wish her a happy birthday. Every year, there will be a day like today, forever young and beautiful. Chapter 2696. However, the current Cloud Master was no longer as elegant and dignified as he used to be. There was only a defeated look on his face. His originally shiny black hair had actually turned white. His eyes no longer had the kind of elegance that flowed from his bones. His handsome appearance had become extremely ferocious. His eyes were filled with evil. It was as if he was a demon that had completely gone mad. However, even if the Cloud Master in front of them was a demon, he was still the most terrifying demon. Because he would still bring slaughter, destruction, and death to the human world. Chu Yang. Cloud Master shouted loudly. Today, you and I shall perish together. Chu Yang looked at him coldly. Cloud Master, it's a pity that you no longer have the ability to do what you said. As they spoke, the two people's sword moves collided with each other in the most extreme manner. In that instant, it was as if a complete star had suddenly exploded in the universe. The two people with the highest cultivation in the heavenly imperial court used the strongest power in their lives at this moment and clashed with each other. With a deafening boom, the whole world started to shake because of this fight. At the same time, Mo Qingwu, Zi Xieching, Mo Tianji, Chu Le-er, Ji Mo's tribulation spirit and Brother Tiger all rushed into the smoke and dust. They joined the battle and attacked with all kinds of attacks at the same time. The saint screamed crazily and rushed over with a fearless aura. He avoided Mo Qingwu's saber. Zi Xieching's seal, Mo Tianji's flute, Chu Le-er and Ji Mo's swords, Brother Tiger's mouth. The entanglement of the tribulation spirit. Chu Yang, however, let out a muffled groan. He staggered and looked at the saint with his eyes wide open. He was a little shocked. This result was really unbelievable. Currently, Chu Yang's cultivation was already on par with Cloud Master. Based on the previous evaluation, he could even gain the upper hand. On the other hand, Master Cloud had already lost his mountain and river sword, while Chu Yang now had the advantage of the calamity sword. Chu Yang was confident that he could gain the upper hand. However, when they clashed with each other, the one who was at a disadvantage was Chu Yang. How could this not be shocking? However, Chu Yang was in disbelief. But it wasn't because of the result. On the contrary, Chu Yang could already conclude that the Saint Monarch's condition wasn't good. He could definitely take him down with his own strength. In that fight just now, it could be said that the Saint had gathered his strongest battle prowess and was also unafraid of death. He would rather die than retreat, and his momentum was not the slightest bit concerned about the power of retreat. Although Chu Yang seemed to have gained the upper hand in the clash just now, he had actually suffered quite a bit of damage. Chu Yang didn't try to show off. After being knocked back, he dissipated the impact of the aftershock and was completely unharmed. However, this wasn't what Chu Yang was truly shocked about. What Chu Yang really couldn't understand was, the Saint Monarch would rather be injured than retreat. Then, he continued to ignore his own injuries and continued to fight against Mo Tianji and the others. Moreover, every move was an attack, not a defense. He didn't care about the crowd's attacks at all. He didn't care about the fact that his body was riddled with wounds in an instant. This kind of battle strategy was simply courting death. Only the word courting death could describe it. This guy is crazy. He's going all out. Chu Yang was afraid that everyone would be in danger. After all, a crazy person's thinking was completely different from a normal person's. With a sway of his body, 10,000 rays of cold light burst out from the Calamity Sword. He didn't retreat anymore and continued to attack. In an instant, his body turned into two Chu Yangs. Each of them wielded a snow-white sword and stabbed out at the same time. None of this Chu Yang was an illusion. Everything was real. The Saint Monarch laughed crazily. "Junior Chu Yang, do you think you're my opponent?" His body turned into a shadow and he also split into a shadow to face Chu Yang. He still turned a deaf ear to the attacks of the others and didn't care about them. Poof! Mo Tianji controlled the purple jade flute in the air and struck the Saint Monarch's shoulder. At the same time, he struck out with both of his palms and smashed them into the venerable cloud's chest. Almost at the same time, Mo Qingwu's dreaming of a gentle dance saber pierced the venerable cloud's right shoulder. The force of the saber entered the venerable cloud's body from within. However, Lord Cloud let out a thunderous laugh. Then, a mass of golden light exploded from his body with a loud bang. This golden light carried an incomparably copious amount of power, and forced Mo Tianji, Mo Qingwu, and the others to retreat. Then, he stood still and continued to fight Chu Yang head-on. Blood gushed out of his mouth, but he still refused to take a step back. Chu Yang's gaze was as cold as ice. He didn't give in at all. His Calamity Sword continued to burst out millions of rays of cold light, resisting the Saint Monarch's crazy attacks with all his strength. In an instant, the two of them had already gone from the ground to mid-air. Then, they moved another 100 miles. They went back and forth in the air and turned into two violent whirlwinds. From this moment on, everyone couldn't even tell which one was Chu Yang and which one was the Saint Monarch. For a moment, no one could interfere. Chu Yang had been using one ray of cold light pierces 10,000 fathoms repeatedly. He calmly dealt with the Saint Monarch's overwhelming attacks and secretly mobilized his strength. The situation in front of him was 1 against 1. The two of them were fighting fiercely without giving in. If they were careless, they would easily be at the end of the road. However, Chu Yang preferred this kind of fighting style. This kind of fighting style could undoubtedly avoid the risks of others. He was facing the Saint Monarch alone. The battle was fierce but not dangerous. He had a lot of capital to deal with the Saint Monarch. Although the Saint Monarch's current condition was at the lowest point in history, Chu Yang still couldn't kill him in one strike. As long as the Saint Monarch had a chance to catch his breath, he could immediately detonate all of the Saint Monarch's true spirits. His strength would instantly return to its peak state from the end of the road. Even with Chu Yang's abilities, he still didn't want to face such a Saint Monarch. Therefore, he was delaying and using his own cultivation to further deplete the Saint Monarch's strength. If he could deal with the Saint Monarch's ultimate attack under normal circumstances, Chu Yang was 100% confident that he could kill the Saint Monarch without suffering any damage. To eliminate all future troubles. In just a few minutes of stalemate, the two of them had already exchanged no less than thousands of blows in the air. The previous generations of tribulators also rushed over when they heard the commotion. Looking at the space cracks that kept cracking open in the sky and the space black holes that looked like the mouths of huge beasts, everyone was shocked speechless. Who are the two sides of the battle? Why are they so powerful? Wu Juecheng asked quietly. Minister Chu and the Saint Monarch. Ji Hui's eyes were filled with fanaticism. Such a battle was the battle of his life. How many times could he see it? Chu. Minister Chu. Wu Juecheng couldn't help but feel a little dizzy. He might be the only one who knew the true origin of the so-called minister title. However, he was also the one who knew Chu Yang's strength the most. All along, he had only heard of Chu Yang's rapid improvement in cultivation. However, it was only now that he knew. Chu Yang's improvement was actually so huge. Now, he could actually fight with the Saint Monarch, the Cloud Master, who had dominated the throne for more than 1,000,000 years, to this extent. In fact, looking at the current battle situation, he even seemed to be handling it with ease. The Cloud Master attacked in an extremely frenzied manner. However, every attack was blocked and neutralized by Chu Yang. Gradually, he became more and more impatient. Suddenly, with a roar, he shot up like a shooting star. Flashing with black light, he shot up into the sky. "Be careful," a voice shouted. "He's going to use the Sovereign King's strike." In the distance, a few figures suddenly appeared. Then, in another direction, a few people also suddenly appeared. Shui Leihan, Shui Qi, Yaroshin Mo Qingqing, Jiyu Duxing, Dong Wushang, and the others had coincidentally arrived together. With that reminder, Chu Yang immediately raised his vigilance. He raised his head and focused his gaze on the Saint Monarch's figure. The sword in his hand let out a trembling sword cry. Behind Shui Leihan, the ice coffin emitted a colorful glow under the sunlight. In the sky, the Cloud Master's figure suddenly scattered and was no longer as stable as before. Suddenly, he let out a wild roar. Then, he spat out 3 mouthfuls of dark red blood. The spiritual energy that he had forcefully gathered earlier actually dissipated completely at this moment. Even his entire body almost exploded in an instant. His entire person fell like a meteorite. But in that instant, he suddenly shouted hoarsely, "Break!" The entire space seemed to tremble violently because of this. Then, the Cloud Master's rapidly falling body suddenly stopped in mid-air. Everything was still. At the same time, the sky fell into darkness. Boundless haze suddenly descended. Countless black lines suddenly entered the Cloud Master's body like rivers converging into the sea. They were densely packed, as if there were countless of them. At this moment, in all parts of the Heaven Imperial Court, countless famous experts suddenly died one after another. They all perished without any warning. Some were on the road, some were at home, and some were even worse. They were still in battle a moment ago, but in the next moment, they suddenly lost their lives and turned into corpses. The power of the 10,000 saints' true spirit that had been cultivated for more than 1,000,000 years all returned to the Saint Monarch's body at this moment. The Saint Monarch looked up to the sky and roared. What came out of his mouth was actually a blood-red mist. All the wounds on his body were completely healed at this moment. His head of white hair also suddenly turned black. All these changes were like a withered tree coming back to life. It was as if he had been reborn and revived from the dead. He stood quietly in mid-air, as if he had regained the demeanor of a Saint Monarch of his generation who laughed proudly in the wind and clouds. His eyes were like 2 deep black holes, staring at Chu Yang. He smiled faintly and said, "Chu Yang, today, you will definitely die." Chu Yang said coldly, "Is that so? As long as you have the ability." Chu Yang could feel that the power that erupted from the Saint Monarch's body at this moment, and the pressure that he felt was actually more than twice that of the Saint Monarch at his peak. The power of the 1,000,000-year-old 10,000 saints' true spirit. It was an extreme explosion in one go. The proud world is almost finished. There's only one big plot left, and I don't plan to write this plot too long. Brothers and sisters, you can add me on Weibo, WeChat, and on the public platform. Just search for Wind Conquers the World. Add me as a follower. Then, I will be writing some side stories of the evil monarch of a different world and the proud world. I hope everyone will like it. For the time being, there are Mo Qingwu, Tai Butian, Mo Tianji, Jiyu Duxing, Meng Chaoran, Chu Xiaoxin, the Dharma Supreme, and others. These few people have side stories. For the evil monarch of a different world, there are Fatty Tang Yuan, Jun Wu Hui, First Young Master Hades, 14th Young Master Hades, and others. Chapter 2697. This level of power was something that even the current Chu Yang couldn't deal with. Strictly speaking, this level had already exceeded the limits of what Chu Yang could handle. But Chu Yang didn't show any signs of fear. He took a deep breath and gripped the Calamity Sword tightly. There was an inexplicable sense of relief in his heart. The 10,000 Saints' true spirits were finally destroyed. After that moment, there wouldn't be any more 10,000 Saints' true spirits in this world. This evil thing that was enough to make the entire world fearful had finally reached its end here. The evil legend had been written, and it had come to an end today. The only key point was the saint in front of him. At this moment, there were many experts on his side. No matter how high the saint's cultivation was, he was ultimately just one person. It was absolutely impossible for him to face the combined attacks of so many experts at the same time. You allowed my ultimate power to appear. As a reward, you shall be the first sacrifice. The saint smiled confidently. His body suddenly dragged out an afterimage. It wasn't a doppelganger, but a product of extreme speed. Cloud Master. At this moment, a loud shout came from afar. Xue Leihan said word by word, "Stop." Cloud Master didn't want to stop, but for some reason, his body stopped in midair again. With his back facing Xue Leihan, he said coldly, "Xue Leihan, do you have anything else to say? Or do you want to be the first test subject to test my strength?" Xue Leihan stared at Cloud Master, his eyes full of hatred. He took a deep breath and said, "Before Xiana died, she asked me to ask you something." Cloud Master was stunned. His tall and sturdy body trembled violently. He said in a low voice, "What is it?" Xue Leihan said word by word, "She asked you. Back then, did you truly love her?" Cloud Master trembled again. He slowly turned around. His gaze stopped on the ice jade coffin that shone with colorful light under the sun. He didn't move away for a long time. After a long time, he said hoarsely, "Is it so important to love her or not? Does this answer still have any meaning today?" Xue Leihan gritted his teeth and said, "You don't have to answer. That day, I only promised my sister to ask you this. No matter how you answer, it's not important. I'm only asking you this because I want to fulfill Xian Er's last wish." "Your answer." Abruptly, Cloud Shangren interrupted, "No." Xue Leihan and Xue Qi scolded at the same time, "Master Yun, you beast." Master Cloud shifted his gaze away from the mystic ice jade coffin and turned around. "From the beginning to the end, I have only been using her. I have never loved her." His voice was hoarse, but his body was like a boulder, motionless. Even as the north wind howled in the air, not a single strand of Master Yun's clothes fluttered in the wind. Not even a single strand of hair fluttered in the wind. Clearly, he was using all of his cultivation to control himself and every inch of his clothes. "You bastard!" Xue Leihan let out a furious roar. Suddenly, he soared into the sky and pounced forward. At the same time, Xue Qi also rushed up with grief and indignation. Xue Leihan's Grand Orient sword and Xue Qi's Darklight sword turned into rainbows at the same time. Both of them were filled with grief and indignation. At this moment, they almost lost their mind. "Because of you, my sister's entire life was ruined. Her reputation was also ruined. However, she was completely innocent. Now, she was already dead, but she still said that she loved you. Even if you really didn't love her, she still had no regrets. Even if you didn't love her, you still wouldn't be willing to say something against your will to comfort the dead. Be careful." Yaroshin and the rest shouted in unison. The current Master Yun was ridiculously powerful. He was definitely not someone that could be defeated by one or two people. It was unwise for Xue Leihan and Xue Qi to be so reckless. However, it was too late to stop them. Master Yun stood with his back facing Xue Leihan. It was as if he didn't feel the furious attack from the two brothers. Two streaks of sword light flew towards him like rainbows. Poof! Poof! Xue Leihan and Xue Qi both widened their eyes in shock. Master Yun didn't dodge nor did he have any intention to resist. He just used his own flesh and blood to take on Xue Leihan and Xue Qi's sword. Xue Leihan's sword pierced through his heart from the back. The tip of the sword was covered in blood as it came out from the front of his chest. Xue Qi's sword also pierced through his back, but it came out from his lower abdomen. Master Yun smiled bitterly with his back facing the two of them. His entire body suddenly floated forward, allowing the two swords to separate from his body. A pained expression appeared on his face. He turned around almost instinctively and raised his palm to strike down. However, he saw the mysterious ice jade coffin behind Xue Leihan. He could clearly see that there was a person inside. Her clothes were as white as snow, and her hair was like clouds. She was lying there quietly with a face full of peace and happiness. She was just lying there, motionless. Xue Leihan and Xue Qi had succeeded in their first attack, but they had used up all their strength and had yet to recover their strength. If Guru Yun were to counterattack at this moment, with his current tyrannical strength, at least one of the two brothers would die on the spot. At this moment, no one could come to their aid in time. Even Chu Yang, who was closest to them, couldn't make it in time. However, Master Yun's raised hand suddenly fell down. He didn't make the attack that was supposed to kill him. Almost at the same time, Xue Leihan's hands were like huge axes that could split mountains. They smashed down on his chest again. What kind of person was Dong Huang? Master Yun didn't attack, but instead created an even bigger flaw in his own body. How could Dong Huang, who hated him to the core, let go of such a flaw? With a few cracking sounds, Master Yun groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood. He flew backward weakly. The bones in his chest were almost completely shattered by Xue Leihan. Xue Leihan, who succeeded, was also inexplicably surprised. He looked at his hands in disbelief. Then, he raised his head and stared at Master Yun. "Why didn't you dodge?" Master Yun placed his hand on his chest. Pure cultivation flowed into his body, and his bones and injuries healed quickly. He shook his head slowly and said in a low voice, "I have never loved her. Never loved her at all." Xue Leihan's gaze became even deeper. It was hard to tell what he was thinking. After a long time, he shouted, "So, you have always been so despicable and shameless." Master Yun sneered. "Yes, I have always been so despicable and shameless. What can you do to me? I owe your Xue clan for the 2 swords and 2 palms just now. Now that it's settled, Xue Leihan, you can go on your way. Reunite with your parents and little sister." Xue Leihan's gaze became even more complicated. He took a deep breath and said, "Everyone, let's kill him together." This meant that Xue Leihan had regained his rationality. He had regained the wisdom and decisiveness that belonged to Dong Huang. Cloud Master laughed out loud. "Chu Yang, bring your brother Tribulation up here. Today, I will flatten the heavenly imperial court." Chu Yang's gaze was also very complicated. He said, "Since you have such a wish, I shall fulfill it. Everyone, let's attack together and kill this villain." Before he finished speaking, the Tribulation sword shone coldly and rushed out first. Mo Qingwu and Zi Xieching. They followed closely behind. Dong Wushang and Jiyu Duxing combined their swords and sabers. Rui Butong and Ao Xieyun soared together. Xue Leihan, Yaro Xin Xue Qi, and Mo Qingqing attacked together. Long Yinghuan, Meng Jinghui, and the rest also attacked with all their might. In the heavenly imperial court, close to 30 of the most powerful experts gathered here. They attacked Master Yun together and encircled him. The lineup was so luxurious that it could be said to be unprecedented. Good timing. Master Yun laughed maniacally. He spun around. Suddenly, more than 20 Cloud Masters appeared in the air, and they launched their attacks in a targeted manner. A battle between the most powerful experts in the heavenly imperial court. It finally started. Chu Yang's Tribulation sword instantly emitted thousands of rays of cold light. This time, he attacked with all his might. He attacked with all his might. Because Master Yun's strength had reached its peak so far. If he didn't go all out, he wouldn't be able to deal with him. More importantly, all of Master Yun's trump cards had been revealed. To an enemy with no secrets, no matter how strong he appeared to be on the surface, he wasn't scary. This was the best time to destroy him. Finish it in one fell swoop. It wasn't just Chu Yang. Everyone else present had the same thought. They all attacked with all their might, determined to destroy this fake emperor who had stolen from the world for more than 1,000,000 years, this demon who had plagued the heavenly imperial court for countless years. However, in the face of the situation where everyone was attacking Master Yun together, Xue Leihan and Xue Qi, who hated Master Yun the most, acted differently from everyone else. After the two brothers looked at each other, they suddenly retreated from the battle. Master Yun, I'm carrying my sister's coffin. You can't bear to attack me. At least you still have some people's hearts. But this is still unfair to you. And I can't let go of my own flesh and blood. My brothers will withdraw from this battle. Xue Leihan's eyes were burning. Master Yun snorted coldly. A trace of heartfelt pain flashed across his eyes. Surrounded by everyone, he said in a low voice, countless experts are attacking one person. With or without the two of you, how much of a difference can there be? Why don't you come together and take revenge for your family and end this karma that has been silent for countless years? Xue Leihan shook his head lightly. I want to kill you. I want to kill you even in my dreams. I want to kill you more than anyone else. But you're still the person my sister loved until her death. Although I have regrets, although I'm unwilling, although I'm mad with hatred. But if my sister knew after her death, she wouldn't want to see your blood on my hands in the end. It's just that I can't say this out loud. Besides, it's against Xue Leihan's principles to take advantage of him while carrying his sister's corpse. Even if he won in the end and killed Master Yun, he would inevitably feel uncomfortable. Chu Yang's tribulation sword instantly emitted thousands of rays of cold light. This time, he attacked with all his might. He attacked with all his might, because Master Yun's strength had reached its peak. If he didn't go all out, he wouldn't be able to deal with him. More importantly, all of Master Yun's trump cards had been revealed. To an enemy who had no secrets, no matter how strong he appeared to be on the surface, he wasn't scary. Now was the best time to destroy him. Chapter 2698. It wasn't just Chu Yang. Everyone else present had the same thought. They all tried their best to destroy this fake emperor who had stolen from the world for more than 1,000,000 years, this devil who had caused trouble for the Heaven Palace for countless years. However, in the face of the situation where everyone was attacking Cloud Master, Xue Leihan and Xue Qi, who had the deepest hatred for Cloud Master, acted differently from everyone else. The two brothers looked at each other and suddenly retreated from the battle. Cloud Master, I'm carrying my sister's body in my coffin. You can't bear to attack me. At least you still have some people's hearts. But this is still unfair to you. And I can't let go of my own flesh and blood. My brothers will withdraw from this battle. Xue Leihan's eyes were burning. Master Yun snorted coldly, and a hint of heartfelt pain flashed in his eyes. He said in a deep voice while the others surrounded him, countless top-notch elites are attacking one person. With or without the two of you, what difference would there be? Why don't you come together and take revenge for your family and end this karma that has been silent for countless years? Xue Leihan shook his head lightly. I want to kill you. I want to kill you even in my dreams. I want to kill you more than anyone else. But you are still the person my sister loved until her death. Although I have regrets, although I'm indignant, although I'm mad with hatred. But if my sister knew after her death, she wouldn't want to see your blood on my hands in the end. But this point couldn't be said out loud. Moreover, he carried his sister's body and took advantage of her. This was against Xue Leihan's principles. Even if he won in the end and killed Cloud Master, he would still feel good. So Xue Leihan chose to withdraw. He would rather give up on this battle than let his sister's spirit in heaven be hurt again. Cloud Master understood Xue Leihan's mentality very well. But he still felt terrible. Because he really wasn't sure if he would, if he was in a critical situation. In a battle between top experts, especially in such a place where he was surrounded by so many people, there was no room for distraction. In a trance, he suddenly heard a muffled groan and two bangs. Dragon Yinghuan and Meng Jinghui were sent flying with blood spurting out of their mouths. That muffled groan came from Master Cloud. While he was distracted, he was struck by Jiuduxing's sword and staggered. Blood splattered everywhere. Immediately after, he counterattacked, injuring both Dragon and Dream. Even though Master Cloud was injured, he laughed loudly and said, "Shuelehan, you are actually a hero of your generation. But, if you and Hao are defeated in this life, you will be defeated by the word hero." Shuelehan listened attentively and said in a low voice, "But I have no regrets even if I die." Master Yun laughed maniacally. Living without regrets is naturally an achievement. Only with success can one have no regret. However, Shuelehan was dumbfounded even though he had no regrets. "You and I have been entangled with each other for more than 1,000,000 years. This is my last advice to you. Doing good may not leave one's name for eternity, but doing evil may leave one's name in the annals of history even if one goes down in infamy for 10,000 years. Shuelehan, good and evil come to an end. It's just a life." Shuelehan sighed. Nonsense. Sophistry. Master Yun was actually surrounded by so many strong enemies. He talked about life like this. The others were all furious and their attacks became even more intense. Ziwuji's burly figure descended from the sky. His broadsword brought with it an extremely sharp roar and actually ignited a huge fire in the air. He shouted, "Master Yun, do you still remember the Xiao Heavenly Emperor from back then?" Master Yun casually blocked Ziwuji's brazen sword attack. He turned around in the air and sent out a series of kicks. Ziwuji let out a loud roar and advanced instead of retreating. He was actually charging forward with no regard for his own safety. "Ziwuji, do you have other origins?" Master Yun frowned and looked at Ziwuji. Master Yun was naturally no stranger to Ziwuji, but he was greatly surprised by Ziwuji's words just now. "Are you surprised? I am Hao's younger brother, biological younger brother." Ziwuji roared in grief and indignation. Suddenly, he threw out his broadsword and then hugged Master Yun's right foot with both hands as he roared to the sky, "Big brother, little brother will avenge you today." Master Yun's face was cold. Although his right foot was restrained, his empty left foot still kicked Ziwuji hundreds of times in a row. Ziwuji vomited blood and his injuries were extremely serious, but he still refused to retreat and clung tightly to Master Yun's right foot. Jiu Du Xing and Dong Wu Shong both came to his aid. Their swords and sabers slashed down, and blood and flesh flew everywhere. In the blink of an eye, the right leg of the sage had turned into a bone club without the slightest bit of flesh. However, Master Yun's bones actually showed a faint golden luster. Jiuduxing's black dragon sword and Dong Wushang's dark saber slashed at them countless times, but they could only form streaks of white marks, unable to do anything else. They could not damage his foundation at all. Faced with this terrifying situation, both Dong Wushang and Jiu Du Xing were shocked. A person's flesh and blood had already been cut off, but his bones were still so strong. This was too unbelievable, wasn't it? With a shout, Yaroshin Er's Demon King Hook flashed with black light and came slashing down. The Saint Monarch's two hands locked Chu Yang's Calamity sword and Mo Ching Wu's Dreaming of a Gentle Dance saber at the same time. His head took Zi Sheqing's purple cloud seal head-on. While bleeding from his 7 apertures, his right leg, which was only a skeleton, finally broke free from Ziwuji's restraint and flew up forcefully to counterattack. Dong Wushang and Jiu Du Xing, whose swords and sabers had been neutralized, grunted at the same time and hurriedly retreated. With a shake of his left foot, Ziwuji's body flew out like a broken sack. Then, the Saint Monarch's whole body spun violently. His arms were like mountain-splitting hammers, brazenly meeting Ao Xieyun's hand and Rui Biu Tong's sword. His left foot, however, rushed out again. His whole left leg stretched infinitely in that instant and crashed into the Demon Empress Demon King Hook. With this collision, the Demon Empress grunted and somersaulted away. With the Demon Empress ability, the Demon Emperor Heaven's strongest divine weapon, the Demon King Hook, was actually defeated. The Saint Monarch's strength was truly shocking and frightening to the extreme. However, a moment of brilliance did not represent eternity. Although the Saint Monarch forced the Demon Empress back with a single kick and dealt with many attacks, It was inevitable that he would lose sight of the other. Almost at the same time he forced the demon empress back. Mo Ching and Mo Huachen's hands slammed into the Saint Monarch's back one after another. Cloud Lord reacted quickly and with a loud roar, he arched his back and slammed backwards. Mo Ching and Mo Huachen, who had just succeeded, also suffered a backlash. They both cried out in unison and spat out blood. They were sent flying backwards. Mo and Luo Ku Di immediately pounced forward. They forcefully crashed into Lord Cloud's bosom at the critical moment. Then, they ferociously hit him with puff sound. This moment was very critical and delicate. The Saint Monarch had just used his back to force back the attacks of the two heavenly emperors and his body was faintly arched backwards. At this moment, Mo and Luo Ku Di were attacking Cloud Lord where the burden on his body was the weakest. Between his waist and abdomen, they were attacking the enemy's vital point. Although the siege was extremely short, everyone had already discovered that the only weapon that could threaten the Saint Monarch was Chu Yang's Calamity Sword. Originally, the Eastern Sovereign's Grand Orient Sword was also a considerable threat to the Demon Empress Demon King Hook. However, because the Eastern Sovereign did not participate in the battle, this layer of apprehension disappeared. As for the other weapons, even Dong Wushang's dark saber, which was heavy and domineering, could only be used against Cloud Lord's flesh. As for his bones, they were already powerless. After Cloud Lord had completely activated the effects of the Myriad Saint's true spirit, his strength had actually reached such a terrifying level. Such a cultivation, in the entire imperial court, could be said to be the absolute number one in all of Tianqiu. That was why everyone chose to attack with their fists and legs. That way, they could pour their cultivation base into Guru Yun's body and cause him to be injured by the shockwave. And this kind of shock injuries only needed to accumulate to a certain extent. Then, he would be able to completely destroy him. In the end, swords and sabers could only cause sharp injuries to a certain area. The impact on the overall damage was always limited. Since the start of the battle, Mo and Luo Kedi's attack on his waist and abdomen was the first time that a Saint Monarch was seriously injured. After being hit, Cloud Lord let out a loud scream and actually did not have time to counterattack. He staggered back in midair. Chu Le and Mo Tianji flew up. Mo Tianji simply swung the purple jade flute and smashed it down like a rod. Chu Le simply abandoned her sword and swung a star metal rod, smashing it down fiercely. A girl smashing someone with a rod, this scene was rather eye-catching. Cloud Lord had just suffered a serious injury from Luo Kedi and Mo's joint attack. He retreated for the first time and was just about to deal with the enemies that were pouncing on him from all directions when he suddenly felt weak all over. It felt as if someone was hugging and entangling him. It also felt like a net that suddenly covered him. No matter how he struggled, it was difficult for him to move and move. This was the divine spirit of the calamity taking advantage of the opportunity and attacking secretly. The moment it attacked, it forcefully locked Cloud Lord's legs and feet. Cloud Lord was experienced in dealing with powerful enemies and did not panic in the face of danger. He suddenly let out a roar, and golden light surrounded him. As if it had erupted, it flickered for a moment. The divine spirit of the calamity immediately let out a scream and turned into a cloud of black smoke that drifted away. However, this momentary lockdown had created enough openings for them. No less than a dozen elites attacked with all their might, and countless attacks landed on Guru Yun's body. His shoulders, chest, back, lower abdomen, arms, legs, and so on. Cloud Lord let out another scream and even spat out a big mouthful of golden blood. With a crack, his left hand was the first to give in and finally broke because it had to withstand the joint attacks of 4 experts at the same time. However, the broken half of his arm, which was still attached to his palm, actually floated in the air as if it was weightless. It was still emitting golden light and was actually slowly dispersing and dividing, gradually dissolving in the air like air. In the blink of an eye, half of his arm had already turned into dust. Cloud Lord screamed loudly. Suddenly, he seemed to have fallen into a state of confusion. His entire body spun violently and turned into a huge black hole that connected the heavens and the earth. You really can't blame me for updating late. However, since a long time ago, I couldn't update it even after using all kinds of browsers and methods. In the end, I had to delete all the browsers and use the 360-degree browser to restore the update. This situation has really been going on for a very long time. If you don't believe me, you can ask the other authors. I'm really about to break down from anxiety. Chapter 2699. Then, an unprecedentedly powerful force suddenly erupted. Chu Yang and the others were all sent flying back involuntarily. Ziwu Ji's injuries were the most serious and he was no longer able to fight, barely holding on as he waited for an opportunity to strike. When this huge force suddenly struck him, he was unable to resist and fell from the sky. Fortunately, he was caught by Xue Leihan, who was already prepared. Otherwise, for a dignified heavenly emperor to die from falling to his death would have been quite unpleasant to hear. The Saint Monarch's body could no longer be seen at this moment. Between heaven and earth, there was only a tornado and a black hole left. Only his roars continued to come out from within. Long Yinghuan, you were at the end of your rope back then. If it weren't for my Yun family lending a helping hand, where would you be now? How could you be as glorious as you are now? Cloud Master roared, his voice shaking the world. Now, you actually joined forces with others to deal with me? Mo Huachen, back then, you were able to ascend to the position of Heavenly Emperor because of my support. Now, you are actually ungrateful? Yarou Shin, back then, I was kind to you and showed mercy countless times. Today, you actually repay kindness with enmity. Chu Yang, I have no enmity with you. Why must you go against me? Cloud Master's roars shook the world. However, his words always avoided Xue Leihan and the Xue family. He is deliberately making himself violent to increase his combat strength. The Demon Empress frowned and said, everyone, be careful. Long Yinghuan stood with his sword and said indifferently, Lord Saint Monarch, it is true that I was seriously injured back then. Your Yun family also saved me and showed me many favors. However, later on, no matter whether it was big or small, I was the one who dealt with it. You, Cloud Master, once used a strange method on me. I relied on my family's inherited soul-locking secret technique to escape. At that time, although I didn't know what kind of method it was, I knew it must be some kind of evil secret technique. Now that I think about it, it must be a secret technique to plant the 10,000 saints' true spirit. However, I have always kept this a secret. This can be considered as being extremely benevolent to you. Now, you have become the public enemy of the world and have brought disaster to the imperial court. I acted against you for the sake of justice. What's wrong with that? Mo Huachen said coldly, back then, the Xue clan treated you as Master Yun. Xue Xian even sacrificed her entire life for you. How did you treat them? Since ancient times, the righteous and evil have never coexisted. At this moment of life and death, with your experience and cunning, you really shouldn't be talking about kindness. Mo Huachen, Master Yun shrieked. Shut up. He screamed and suddenly swooped down. Everyone could feel him at this moment. The might of the tornado he had transformed into hadn't even reached its peak, yet it was already rushing down. Mo Huachen's words, intentionally or unintentionally, had hit his biggest weak spot. Xue clan. Xue Xian. As soon as this matter was mentioned, Cloud Lord could no longer tolerate it, and he immediately attacked. He hated Mo Huachen to the core for saying this. This time, all of them attacked at the same time. They were targeting him at the same time, but his goal was very simple. Mo Huachen, Chu Yang's Calamity Sword and the Demon Empress Demon King hook bloomed with blood on Master Yun's body at the same time. The other weapons, fists, and kicks all smashed on Master Yun's body like raindrops, but Master Yun didn't care at all. He didn't dodge or evade, and just rushed out with a roar. Master Yun swooped down, forcibly passing through the attacks of countless fists, palms, sabers, and swords, leaving behind a sky full of minced flesh. It was almost as if he was being cut into pieces, but he still rushed to Long Yinghuan and Mo Huachen. He waved his bare left hand, and Long Yinghuan stumbled back with his sword, bleeding from his 7 orifices. However, the real main force's next attack had already locked onto another person, Mo Huachen. Mo Hua Chen was also someone who had experienced many powerful enemies. How could he not know that this was a moment of life and death? He gritted his teeth, and his whole body emitted a faint golden light. His 2 hands carried his maximum strength and pushed out crazily. He had a sword in his hand, but just as he thrust out his sword, Master Yun grabbed the blade and twisted it into a fried dough twist, and then broke it. Mo Hua Chen's sword flew out of his hand, and at this moment, his 2 hands struck out with thousands of palms. Master Yun's eyes were red, but he didn't dodge at all. He straightforwardly used his chest to receive Mo Hua Chen's attack. A vortex that was visible to the naked eye suddenly appeared on his chest, and his flesh instantly disappeared, leaving behind only a strange black hole. It locked onto Mo Hua Chen's hands, and then hundreds of thunderous attacks all smashed onto Mo Hua Chen's body. At the same time, his own chest also made a series of cracking sounds. Chu Yang and the others behind him could clearly see waves of powerful energy being projected out from Master Yun's back. Strictly speaking, this fight should be a situation where both sides suffered great losses. Master Yun had paid a considerable price. However, Mo Hua Chen was in an even worse state. Under Venerable Cloud's frenzied attacks, Mo Hua Chen had already completely lost all ability to resist. His cultivation was already far inferior to Venerable Cloud's, and at this moment, he was facing a madman who didn't dodge at all and only knew how to destroy and slaughter his enemies. Almost immediately, he was beaten to the point where he lost all ability to resist. After Master Yun succeeded, he grabbed Mo Hua Chen's neck and directly lifted him up. He swung Mo Hua Chen's body and spun him around fiercely. Everyone hurriedly retreated out of fear of harming Mo Hua Chen. Guru Yun ignored all the enemies around him. His eyes were red as he roared in a deep voice, "What right do you have to do this? Why do you also have to interfere in my affairs? The Shui clan's affairs are between me and the Shui clan. What does it have to do with you? Shuixian affairs are also between me and Shuixian. What does it have to do with you? What does it have to do with you?" He roared, "What right do you have to say that? Who do you think you are?" Mo Hua Chen's eyes were filled with despair. His throat made gurgling sounds as he struggled to say, "Using a woman's feelings. Deceiving a woman's life to achieve your own despicable goals. Master Yun, I look down on you. I don't need you to look down on me." Master Yun roared, "I don't need any of you to look down on me. No matter how despicable I am, you have no right to criticize me. No." Master Yun suddenly roared to the sky, "What do you know? What do you know? What do you know?" At this moment, his mind was clearly a little out of order. The extreme power of the 10,000 Saints' true spirit had indeed caused his strength to surge and his body to recover completely. However, it wasn't without any side effects. Such a strong power wasn't something that his body could completely bear. If he could calm his heart and regulate his breathing to eliminate the side effects, he could naturally eliminate the side effects. However, at this moment, he was in a fierce battle. Although the saint had forcibly absorbed the returning power, how could he completely absorb it in such a short time? From then on, his mind had already started to become a little dazed. It was only because of the strong power in his body and the illusion that everything was in his hands that the side effects weren't obvious. Later on, after being enraged time and time again, the side effects finally erupted. He swung Mo Hua Chen's body back and forth and suddenly laughed miserably. "Ha ha ha ha. You don't know anything. You don't know anything." He spun his body crazily in the air. Suddenly, he roared, "You don't know anything." Everything between heaven and earth seemed to have suddenly stopped at this moment. Even time had stopped flowing. Time had stopped. This was the saint activating his own time domain, causing the area within 1,000 miles to completely stop. He himself was within this domain and continued to roar crazily. "What do you know? Do you think that I, Master Yun, was born a bad person? Fuck. I have a 10,000 Saints true devil as my father. What can I do? Even if I have the ambition to protect the world, to do good deeds for the imperial court at all costs, to seek benefits, to uphold justice at all costs, when the true identity of the 10,000 Saints true devil is revealed, as his son, I will still be the public enemy of the world. Even if I do what a saint does, I will still be dead by then. No one will believe in the son of the 10,000 saints true devil. No one. Everything I have done will only be seen by the world as an act, a sanctimonious act to buy people's heart. He roared furiously, Shui Lei Han, Yaroshin Mo Ching Ching. At that time, can you accept a son of the 10,000 saints true devil as your friend? Can you? Shui Lei Han and Yaroshin looked at each other. To be honest, this was definitely impossible, just like what Master Yun had said. Once his father's true identity as the 10,000 saints true devil was exposed, Master Yun would become the public enemy of the world. There was no other possibility for this matter, even if Master Yun was really a saint, as long as he was that old. The outcome would still be tragic. No matter what I choose, I will still become the public enemy of the world in the end. Why can't I do bad things? Even if I do good things, I will still become the public enemy of the world in the end. Why am I evil beyond redemption? Living in this world, how can I not want to be a righteous person? Am I a fucking fool? I was young and handsome back then, successful in my career, famous and righteous. My reputation was as great as the sun. Why do I have to painstakingly plan everything? Why? Master Yun roared crazily, but in this world, everything can be changed. Everything can be changed. The only thing that cannot be changed is one's birth. One's birth parents cannot be changed. Being born as the son of the 10,000 saints true devil, this is my destiny. Why? Why do I have such a destiny? We are all humans, why don't you have it? Why can all of you be innocent? Why can all of you openly reveal your own origins? Master Yun roared and questioned loudly. I am evil, I am evil. Why? Because even if I am not evil, I will only be forced to do evil by all of you. Because if I don't do evil, I won't be able to live in the end. So I set up a trap to kill my father. But since I even killed my own father, in this heaven imperial court, who else do I care about? I can't kill anyone. Do the others, all of them, deserve it? Master Yun laughed loudly. You don't deserve it. So, I have always thought that I am not a good person. But no matter what bad things I do, sometimes I will feel that I am crazy, but I will still have a clear conscience. I will always have a clear conscience. I will always have a clear conscience. Master Yun roared. Suddenly, with a boom, Mo Huachen's body was torn into pieces in his hand. A celestial emperor of a generation died today, becoming the first sacrifice in this demon extermination war. Everyone's eyes were wide open. They roared at the same time and counterattacked. Under everyone's joint efforts, countless light cracking sounds rang out continuously, as if a piece of glass was broken. Countless small cracks appeared in the air. The space and time lock was immediately removed. Even if I am the enemy of the world, so what? Master Yun soared into the air. He shouted, when I took the first step, I saw this day. With one sword, I am the enemy of the world. However, in this life, the only person I have let down is. His gaze swept past the mysterious ice jade coffin behind Shui Leihan very quickly. Then, he let out a long laugh. He flew into the air and pounced toward Chu Yang. He shouted, today's deadlock is either you kill me or I kill all of you. Today, all right and wrong will be resolved. When we are all buried in the purple cloud heavens, let's see how watch me live and let's see how watch me die. With extremely crazy laughter, the bones all over Master Yun's body emitted the most dazzling golden light again at this moment, pressing toward Chu Yang irresistibly. Chu Yang also let out a wild roar and shouted, come on. The calamity sword flashed in the air and turned into a thunderbolt, counterattacking fiercely. One ray of cold light pierces 10,000 feet. What harm is there in slaughtering the world? A sharp wool buried deep will not change. Once the wind and clouds gather, I will be the king. The general principle of the calamity sword was also the tip of the sword. The ultimate sword move, 4 moves were released at the same time. This was the first time Chu Yang released all 4 ultimate moves in one go ever since he got the calamity sword. In this instant, Chu Yang's dantian was completely emptied. The calamity sword shone brightly. It transformed into a bolt of heavenly lightning. A dazzling and resplendent pillar of light, surrounded by specks of starlight that were as dim as the sun and moon, charged toward Cloud Lord. Master Yoon's injuries were actually quite severe. This should be his last desperate attempt. This was something that everyone present could see. However, this last desperate attempt still had the power to kill. It still had the power to kill people. It could kill anyone present, including the strongest Chu Yang. Therefore, Chu Yang was also giving his all. He was giving his all. This was because he'd already clearly sensed that the sage was looking for a person to accompany him in death at this moment. Perhaps when he first came to the purple cloud heavens, he had other thoughts, many plans, many things that he had not done yet. However, at this moment, for some reason, the moment Xue Leihan appeared with the coffin on his back, Master Yoon seemed to have received the most intense stimulation. He did not want to live anymore. Extreme detonation and the return of all the 10,000 saints' true spirits was a sign that he was courting death. However, he was still unwilling to die just like that. He had to find one or a few people to die with him, and for those he found, other than himself who could rely on the calamity sword to have a chance of survival, the others, no matter who they were, would definitely die if they went against him. Even if he had other brothers around him while he was resisting the Saint Lord, that brother would definitely be dragged down by Master Yoon. Therefore, Chu Yang chose to fight alone with his sword. The two of them, the two most brilliant balls of light, collided in the air. The whole world actually went silent for a moment at this moment. The next moment, it suddenly exploded. The huge impact caused Chu Yang to fly backward and spurt out blood. He arched his back and shot out like an arrow, his face pale. On the other hand, the Saint Lord opposite him spurted out blood and flew backward powerlessly. He kept spurting blood until the sky was full of blood mist. The three heavenly emperors, Long Yinhuan, Mengjing, and Mo Qingqing, attacked at the same time. At the moment when Master Yoon was powerless to fight back and stumbling backward, they quickly caught up with him and attacked him mercilessly. In the fight just now, Master Yoon was riddled with holes by Chu Yang's extremely powerful Calamity Sword aura and Calamity Ultimate move. He was also pushed back by the force of the explosion. For a moment, he did not have the ability to fight back at all. He screamed and blood and flesh flew everywhere. When he stopped retreating, everyone realized that there was almost no flesh left on him from head to toe. Only a complete skeleton was left. Even his two eyes were completely blinded and destroyed by Long Yinhuan and the others. However, Master Yoon still had the strength to fight back. Without any hesitation, he rushed forward. There was no flesh on his body, but he spontaneously made a strange sound, full of cruelty and viciousness. "Let's die together." His body flew forward like a shooting star. However, he was obviously beaten silly. His eyes were blinded, and he could not see the direction at all. He actually flew toward an empty place with no one around. The pure spiritual energy of heaven and earth, the endless aura of life and death, all of it flooded into his body at the same time without any distinction. He was going to self-destruct. Everyone first took a breath and then heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, this lunatic was blind. Otherwise, at this moment, if he rushed into the crowd and self-destructed, he could at least drag a few people away. At this moment, no one made a sound. They also did not dare to make a sound. They only watched as Master Yoon flew and waited for him to self-destruct. Chu Yang had just stood up again. Seeing this, he also couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. If this terrifying enemy self-destructed for no reason, that would really be a great blessing. However, in the blink of an eye, Chu Yang exclaimed. Chu Yang let out an indescribably horrified cry, "Stop him! You must stop him!" Master Yoon did not rush toward the place where everyone was gathered, but it was not that he did not have a target. His target was actually the layer of white fog in front of the first bridge. Was it intentional? Or, did he not know? No one knew about this. However, everyone was clear about one thing. This matter seemed to be serious. If he self-destructed in the white fog, the result would be too terrible. It might even be more serious than the few people who died here. Mo Tianji also instantly realized. He shouted, "Stop him!" Everyone realized that something was wrong and chased after him with all their might. However, it was already too late. A series of extremely strange and maniacal laughter rang out. Master Cloud's tattered body crashed into the white fog, which seemed to be an invisible barrier. When he sensed that he was stopped, Master Cloud actually let out a strange and hoarse laugh. He said, "Let's do it together." Bang! A loud sound was heard, and the white fog suddenly exploded. The situation had changed. There was no turning back. Chu Yang, Mo Tianji, and the others felt their hands and feet turn cold. They watched as Master Yun, who used to be the #1 person in the imperial court, turned into the most dazzling firework in the white fog in the most extreme way. An unprecedentedly huge mushroom cloud instantly rose into the sky, and countless bright golden lights shone. It shot out from the inside just like that. The scene was extremely spectacular. The whole world was shaking because of this change. The ground under their feet was also shaking crazily. Everything in the surroundings, including the mountains within a radius of 2,000 miles. All of them were dispirited. In the sky, the mysterious white fog that had existed for many years and connected the heaven and earth. It formed the most solid defense line of the imperial court. It swayed violently like a willow tree in the wind. Everyone could clearly feel that the white fog was very fragile. It seemed like it would break if it swayed any more. It was like an arrow at the end of its flight. In the next moment, under everyone's shocked gazes, a bolt of lightning suddenly fell from the sky. Perhaps, it was not lightning at all. Instead, it was the core of the white fog that suddenly broke. From the sky, it broke apart in a crooked manner. When it broke to a certain extent, countless golden lightning bolts suddenly appeared. They were streaks of distorted white fog. It continued to extend into the boundless distance. Then, from the boundless sky, the white fog came crashing down like a tangible object. It started to fall slowly from the sky. Halfway through, the white fog already started to dissipate, revealing the blue sky above. Chu Yang and the others felt a chill run down their spines. Their minds were completely blank. The thing that they were most worried about, the most terrifying thing, had finally happened. Master Yun self-destructed. In the place where Chu Yang was most afraid of his self-destruction, he detonated his most extreme self-destruction. At the same time, it triggered the thing that Chu Yang and the others were most worried about. The white fog that had separated the heavenly palaces from the fallen purple cloud heavens for an unknown number of years finally collapsed due to Yun Shengren's self-destruction. Under the constant attacks of the extraterrestrial demons for millions of years, the white fog was already on the verge of collapse. It was already on the brink of collapse. Now, Master Yun's self-destruction was like the straw that broke the camel's back. The mysterious white fog finally collapsed completely. The disappearance of the white fog also symbolized that the imperial court's biggest barrier against the extraterrestrial demons for millions of years had collapsed and ceased to exist. It also meant that from this moment on, the living beings in the imperial court would have to face the extraterrestrial demons' most direct, tide-like attack. Everyone was speechless. A saint of a generation turned into dust just like that. All the top experts in the imperial court who were left were all injured, including Chu Yang, who had the highest cultivation, and Mo Tianji, who was the think tank of the generation. Everyone was seriously injured and did not have much combat power. Yet, at this most delicate moment, the white fog disappeared. It was completely gone. The great calamity of the Heaven Imperial Court had suddenly arrived at a time when no one was prepared for it and no one had expected it. I have to think about the following plot carefully. I'll update it tomorrow or later. Also, brothers and sisters who like the proud world and the evil monarch can add to my public reputation. Search for Wind Conquers the World and you will find me. I will write a lot of stories there. Cough cough. Please wait and see. Chapter 2700. There's already a reaction from the other side. Help is coming. Mo Tianji planned nervously. Currently, we have more than enough high-end combat power, but our overall combat power is still far from enough. The remnants of purple clouds will be our best supplement now. But I estimate that it's still not enough, definitely not enough. How can we get more combat power? At this moment, The layer of white fog and golden light that was gradually breaking down finally reached the end of its existence. With a bang, it completely exploded. The white fog also completely dissipated at this moment, no longer returning to the world. This ancient barrier that separated the heavenly imperial court from the fallen land of purple clouds, heavens no longer existed. On the opposite side, everyone could clearly see the countless heavenly demon army swarming over like a tide. As far as the eye could see, there was no end to it. The crowd was like an ocean, densely packed and surging. The heavenly imperial court, the weapon of extermination that had been suspended for millions of years, finally descended. However, at this moment, an extremely unexpected thing happened without any warning. Or rather, it was a miraculous change. The broken golden light that appeared because of the overflowing white fog didn't disappear along with the white fog. Instead, it gathered bit by bit into thick golden light in the air. In just a few moments, all the golden light gathered together. The golden light became brighter and brighter, dazzling everyone's eyes. Dozens of golden lights intersected in the air. The next moment, many golden lights in the air descended brazenly. Fifth heaven, who was the closest, suddenly let out a scream. A golden light in the sky drilled into his body at almost the same time. The rest of the golden lights also descended. Among the generations of Tribulation brothers, except for the Chu brothers and Wu Ju Cheng, everyone else trembled. A thick golden light drilled into each of their bodies mysteriously. Chu Yang and the others were shocked at this scene. They couldn't help but be stunned. What's going on? How could there be such a strange change? There were a total of 11 generations of Tribulation brothers here, and none of them were missing. Everyone bore a golden light. Whether they were fighting or doing something else, there was no exception. No one missed. Following that, an even stranger change occurred. Those golden lights exploded in the bodies of the Tribulation brothers. The bodies of Ji Huitian and the others. At this moment, it became completely transparent, as if the original muscle tissue no longer existed. One could clearly see the golden light in its body. Gradually, a complete skeleton was formed. It was a complete skeleton. From head to toe, not a single detail was left out. The only difference between these skeletons and ordinary skeletons was that these skeletons were golden in color, and they were overflowing with golden light. The Tribulation brothers who bore the golden light roared at the sky at the same time. A beam of golden light shot out from each of their mouths, and disappeared without a trace in an instant. Then, the golden light on everyone's body slowly dissipated. Everyone discovered that their cultivation had been reduced in an instant. There was actually a huge improvement. Moreover, it was the kind of astonishing improvement that he didn't even dare to dream of before. Ji Huitian casually swung his sword. The activated sword Qi instantly transformed into a long dragon, and all the heavenly demons within a radius of 3,000 feet were all wiped out. The pinnacle of the sage realm. Ji Huitian cried out in surprise. In the blink of an eye, he had made such an astonishing improvement. Yes, all the Tribulation brothers were surprised to discover that their cultivation had really taken a step forward at this moment, and they had achieved the pinnacle of cultivation in the heavenly palace continent. The pinnacle of the sage realm. This was the same level of cultivation as Dai Hu. The strength of all the Tribulation brothers had reached this level in an instant. Everyone's strength had climbed to the pinnacle of the heavenly palace continent, and everyone's strength was no longer inferior to Zi Wu Ji and Wu Yi Kuang. In the face of such an unexpected change, everyone was so shocked and happy that they almost fainted. When the heavenly demons finally broke through the white fog, when the heavenly palace continent was trapped in an unprecedentedly bad situation, the strength of several parties had actually improved so much. This was simply a heaven-sent joy. And it was the improvement of all 11 of them without exception. This was something that couldn't be explained at all. This huge strength was really hard to imagine. With this comprehensive strength, the most conservative estimate was at least equivalent to more than 5 holy monarchs in their strongest state. The heavenly palace continent, which was originally at an absolute disadvantage, instantly turned the situation around. Although they might not be able to counterattack, at least the situation was no longer one-sided. Ji Huitian had an amazing breakthrough and unexpectedly obtained amazing strength. In his surprise, he inadvertently neglected his defense. A heavenly demon on the opposite side slashed at him. Amidst everyone's exclamations, the blood-red blade ruthlessly chopped at Ji Huitian's neck. Everyone couldn't help but close their eyes. With such a critical injury, even with Ji Huitian's current cultivation, it was difficult to resist. Death was imminent, and it was hard to avoid. Even Ji Huitian himself was shocked when he realized that a fatal blow was about to hit him, but it was already too late. He couldn't even make the slightest movement to dodge. Huitian, big brother Ji. All the Tribulation brothers exclaimed together. However, Ji Huitian was actually unscathed after receiving this fatal blow. While he was in a daze, he actually touched his neck in bewilderment. Then, he reached out and grabbed the heavenly demon's blade. With a twist, he snatched it away. Then, he rushed out with a punch and directly smashed this heavenly demon who was at least at the level of a saint. The sharp blood blade unique to the heavenly demon clan actually couldn't cause any damage to him at all. Undying golden body. Chu Yang, Mo Tianji, and the others had a flash of inspiration. They all thought of a sentence at the same time. The past Tribulation Sword Masters used their bodies to open the path of reincarnation and opened the door to the outer realm. Bones as walls, flesh paving the way, blood as wind, and soul as the sky. Send my brother to battle the heavenly demons in the outer realm, raise my brother, rebuild his physical body, and become an undying golden body. Fulfill my brother's wish to command the outer realm and achieve immortal achievements. Let my brother enjoy the glory of the heavens and the earth and receive the supreme glory. Obviously, this was what the Tribulation brothers deserved the most, the last blessing of the past Tribulation Swordmasters. Undying golden body. At the same time, the two of them also understood. Why was it that only Wu Jueqing didn't receive this beam of golden light and didn't have an undying golden body? Because the other brothers had all come here in the form of souls, which was equivalent to them not having a physical body. And this beam of golden light was the only secret to rebuilding their physical bodies at the critical moment and achieving an undying golden body. At the same time, it was also the last trump card, or rather, the opportunity, because this beam of golden light was actually hidden in that white fog. If the white fog didn't collapse, the Tribulation brothers would forever remain golden-robed heavenly guards. Although their cultivation wasn't low, they ultimately couldn't reach the peak. However, once the white fog collapsed, they would instantly achieve an earth-shattering level of cultivation. This was the true compensation that the past Tribulation Swordmasters received after making huge sacrifices. And Wu Jueqing actually didn't need this process of rebuilding his undying golden body, because he had ascended with his physical body in the first place. He didn't need this rebuilding process at all. Therefore, he didn't have a share in this golden light. While everyone was enlightened, they were also energized at the same time. At such a critical moment, there were suddenly 11 more experts who were equivalent to the first Emperor-Empress appearing here. It was simply a huge pie that fell from the sky. This was almost equivalent to more than 10 heavenly emperors of the past fighting here at the same time. If Chu Yang, Xue Leihan, and the others were included, there were almost 100 experts who represented the top strength of the imperial court here. What a huge force this was, enough to destroy everything easily and sweep away everything. The 11 of them roared at the same time and charged into the heavenly demon horde without hesitation. The battle situation was critical now. They didn't have time to slowly adapt to the drastic increase in cultivation just now. They could only practice in such an unusually cruel battle. The heavenly demon vanguard was already defeated the moment they came into contact with them. Instantly, corpses were everywhere. When the difference in strength between the two sides was too great, the difference in numbers was no longer a factor that affected the battle situation. The situation that could have been overturned at any time was temporarily stabilized. Previously, the white fog collapsed too suddenly. Of course, Chu Yang's side wasn't prepared, and the heavenly demons who were looking forward to the collapse of the white fog were similarly not mentally prepared. The heavenly demon army gathered at the front line had already been fully deployed. But because they lacked high-end battle power, they were instantly wiped out by the Tribulation Brothers who had increased their strength, and the reinforcements had yet to arrive. This gap was perhaps the only time that Chu Yang, Mo Tianji, and the others could breathe a sigh of relief. Because, under the obstruction of attacks from many sides, they could finally temporarily curb the heavenly demons' attacks, and not let a large number of heavenly demon troops enter the imperial court immediately. However, this time of relief could only last for a day at the most optimistic estimate. At the latest, the reinforcements from the extraterrestrial demons, especially the high-end battle power of the heavenly demons, would come one after another. As for the reinforcements from the imperial court, even Dong Wushang's troops, who were the closest to here, would need at least 5 days to arrive. This meant that there was at least a 4-day gap, and from the looks of it now, there was no way to make up for these 4 days. Shui Leihan's eyes focused and he suddenly asked, Chu Yang, where's your 5 directions world sword? Hearing that, Chu Yang was startled. Only then did he remember that in his tribulation space, there seemed to be a sword left for him by that mysterious expert, the 5 directions world sword. Take it out and cut through the space barrier. Shui Leihan smiled. This is my gift to you, the second wedding surprise. Chu Yang didn't hesitate at all. He stretched out his palm, and the 5 directions world sword suddenly appeared in his hand. Chu Yang was taken aback when he held the sword in his hand. This sword, which was emitting cold light in all directions, was as light as a feather. In the next moment, 5 different colors gradually rose. Chu Yang didn't care. He gathered his strength and swung the sword, slashing it down fiercely. It was as if there was a layer of thin film in front of him that was split open by the sword, revealing the true face inside. On the other side was another world. Chu Yang slashed it open and was instantly stunned. Chapter 2701. The 5 directions world sword in Chu Yang's hand slowly melted and disappeared after this sword. It turned out that this mystical sword could only be used once. At this moment, Chu Yang didn't pay attention to the disappearance of the 5 directions world sword in his hand. He just looked ahead. Because there was someone ahead. A person slowly stepped out and said with a smile, Brother Chu, it's been a long time. Hello. Chu Yang saw the person and shouted in surprise, Storm. The person who came was actually the 2nd generation 9 Tribulations sword master, Storm. Behind Storm, a person in snow-white clothes walked out. His face was calm but his eyes were sharp. He stepped out and pressed his hand on the sword hilt. He said softly, This must be the so-called extraterrestrial battlefield. The land invaded by the extraterrestrial demons, right? Chu Yang took a deep breath and his eyes lit up. He said, That's right. The situation here is critical. I need your help. Opposite him, the 7 people who came out in a line laughed. No need to be so polite. We've been sharpening our swords all our lives for this moment. Let's not talk too much. Chu Yang, after we kill the extraterrestrial demons, you must take out your wedding banquet. Let's drink together. Okay. Chu Yang's eyes lit up. It's a deal. I'm going to find my brothers. This sentence was said by the 7 people almost at the same time. Their eyes were filled with extreme eagerness. Obviously, they couldn't wait any longer. Saying these words to Chu Yang was already giving Chu Yang a lot of face. I understand. Your brothers are also waiting for you. Chu Yang happily stepped aside. They're also anxiously waiting for you. They've really been waiting for you for too long. Storm laughed. He was really like a huge human-shaped storm. He took the lead and rushed out from Chu Yang's side. His long sword was like snow, bringing with it thousands of cold lights. He took the lead and rushed into the extraterrestrial demon formation. A long roar shook the sky. Storm, come, brothers. Annoyed by the world, isolated from the sea, proud of the universe, master of the rise and fall of the 9 heavens, in the heart. My brothers. Where are you? When he said the last 5 words, even his voice was trembling. How long had it been since he said this sentence? Too long. It was really too long. His voice shook the sky, and a ray of sword light shot through the air like a dragon. Ji Huitian, Yang Yuchen, Zhuoqiu Yunqiuo, and the others who were in the middle of killing their enemies suddenly trembled, and they quickly turned their heads in disbelief. He looked in the direction of the voice. Looking at the sword light that suddenly appeared in the sky, as well as the figure that was wrapped in thousands of cold lights, Lin Mengya was shocked. That gaze, that voice, the 9 brothers choked with sobs at the same time and roared as if they were venting their emotions. Boss. The group of people almost jumped up in joy, but their tears flew out one after another. Boss. You've come. It's finally here. Brothers, we've been waiting for you for a long time, really for a long time. In another direction. Stepping on the firmament, pointing your sword at by Yundong. Brothers. I'm coming. Yundong's clothes were as white as snow, and his sword was like a dragon. Crossing the sky, looking down on the world with disdain. The sword aura was extremely sharp, but it brought out a unique, cold, sharp, and unrestrained feeling. Wu Jueqing and the others started shouting crazily, "Boss! It's Boss! Boss is here!" Hearing the long-awaited shouts of his brothers and seeing the familiar faces of his brothers, Yundong laughed loudly, but his tears also flew out. He moved his sword and let the cold tears dry on his face, but it was still difficult to hide the passion in his heart. 9 tribulations as one, invincible in the world. Yundong roared. The sword in his hand turned into a long dragon and rushed into the heavenly demon battle formation without turning back. Brothers, after 50,000 years, we meet again after a long separation. Let's fight side by side again. After the demonic calamity is quelled, you and I can talk about our parting again. Jun Weiling, Meng Chang'e, Shimen Wanli, Yang Huanming, and the others all felt as if their hearts were about to explode from the boiling hot blood in this moment. Without the slightest hesitation, they followed behind Yundong and charged forward. Even if there was a mountain of swords and a rain of bullets in front of them, there was no turning back, there was no turning back. 9 tribulations as one, invincible in the world. 50,000 years later, we fight side by side. Hearing the long-awaited voice of their boss again, the joy and bitterness in their hearts made everyone's eyes brim with hot tears. They were extremely excited. It turned out that tens of thousands of years had already passed since they were separated. It had actually been so long. It turned out that we were finally able to see our boss again and fight side by side again. It turned out that we actually had a chance to get drunk for a few days and enjoy ourselves to our heart's content. Our boss said that he would talk about our parting after the heavenly demons were exterminated. His meaning was very clear. That was, now, let's fight like how we were together in the past. Everything can wait until after the battle. Meng Kang, Duan Tian, Qin Fang, Lin Zun, Jun Lai, and the others also joined the battlefield in the most excited state. For a moment, even though the heavenly demon battlefield was filled with blood and flesh, even though it was in the midst of a fierce battle, it was still like a group of brothers reuniting after a long separation. Boss! Boss! The 9 tribulations brothers all shouted from the bottom of their hearts, making the eyes of the previous sword masters brimming with tears and unable to suppress the excitement in their hearts. These are my brothers. No matter what they have experienced. No matter how many years have passed. No matter how much they have improved. But they will always be my brothers, and always will be. With my brothers by my side, I am invincible. Yundong's words made all the 9 tribulations swordmasters and 9 tribulations brothers shed hot tears. How long had it been since they heard this sentence? It was exactly what everyone was thinking, and especially what everyone was thinking at this moment. It seemed to be repeated and contradictory, but in fact, it accurately described everyone's mentality at this moment. In the face of the swarm of heavenly demons, 7 battle circles were naturally formed. These 7 battle circles were like black holes that devoured the heavenly demon horde, endlessly devouring and killing. The 7 9 tribulations sword masters each led their brothers whom they had not seen for a long time, and each blocked a part of the heavenly demon horde. Although there was a great disparity in the enemy's numbers, under the surging emotions of reuniting after such a long time, it was as if everyone was assisted by the gods. In front of them, the heavenly demon horde was like snowflakes under the scorching sun, melting one after another. They were like clay chickens and pottery dogs, unable to withstand a single blow. On the other side, Xi Xieching and Mo Qingwu had already rushed to a faraway place and were about to converge with the army of the remnants of Purple Cloud. The two women were not injured at the moment and were safe and sound. The Purple Cloud Emperor's seal was still rotating slowly in mid-air like a huge beacon, guiding the remnants of Purple Cloud to converge here. Seeing the scene in front of them, countless survivors of Zixiao burst into tears. Finally, he could see the legendary holy object with his own eyes. Heavenly Emperor Purple Firmament, our sovereign, finally returned again. To be continued. Search the Yunlai Pavilion for 100 times. Read 10,000 books for free. Yunlage. Chapter 2702. At this time, apart from Zi Wuji, the rest of the 9 Theaches and 1 Empress had already joined the battle. The strength of these people was really not to be underestimated. Although it was difficult for them to perform well among the high-end forces, that was because Cloud Master and Chu Yang's strength and combat power were too abnormal. In fact, they were also at the peak of the 9 heavens. Even though the 9 Tribulations brothers had soared to the same level as them, because they hadn't really broken in, it was difficult for them to control their own strength well. They couldn't really be on par with the 9 Theaches and 1 Empress. As long as each of them attacked, a stretch of the heavenly demon army would be destroyed in front of them. They killed the heavenly demon horde as quickly as harvesting wheat. In just a moment, corpses and broken limbs were everywhere, and blood flowed like rivers. At this moment, the high-level battle power of both sides was truly disproportionate. The experts of Tian Qiu's side were unleashing a one-sided massacre. However, at the same time, there was also a disproportionate number of people on both sides. The heavenly demon horde surged forward fearlessly. If you kill 10 of mine, I'll send 100 of mine. If you kill 100 of mine, I'll send 1,000 of mine, 10,000 of mine. Originally, the white fog covered an area of more than 10,000 miles. Although each of these people on Tian Qiu's side was an expert and each of them could cause damage within a considerable range, the heavenly demons in the defensive line of more than 10,000 miles were pouring in crazily. They really couldn't kill them all, and ultimately, they couldn't completely stop them. Everyone tried their best to move about, blocking and killing, but it was still beyond their power. They might be able to destroy the area covered by their destructive power. However, the areas that couldn't be covered were still filled with heavenly demon horde. Those heavenly demon horde roared and rushed into the 9 heavens imperial court, breathing and feeling the smell of the air that was completely different from the heavenly demon territory and purple cloud heavens. All the heavenly demons were extremely excited. They let out strange cries, not fearing death as they rushed in wave after wave. The battle continued. Everyone was already going all out, trying their best to clean up the heavenly demon horde that they could see. However, they had no time to care about the heavenly demon troops that had already rushed in. They really weren't strong enough and couldn't take care of everything. Dong Wushang could only issue an order. Middle Extreme Heaven Army, intercept them head-on. Also, leave a portion of the army to guard the various strategic point. Bit by bit, block the heavenly demons that have sneaked into the Middle Extreme Heaven. You must. Don't let the heavenly demon army enter the hinterland of Tian Qiu. As for other matters, right now, he could only resign himself to fate. At the same time, the entire 9 heavens imperial court's 10 great heavens and earths also started to move like wildfire. The first batch of flying ships from each great heavens and earths that were fully loaded with experts were already flying in the air, rushing rapidly towards Purple Cloud Heaven. For a time, the flying boat soared into the sky, covering the sky and the earth. Just the heavenly armament pavilion that Demon Emperor Heavenly Chu Yang belonged to had 100 flying ships as the first batch of reinforcements. The preparations that Chu Yang had made all this while had finally paid off. It was a flying boat. Carrying 3,000 people, 100 ships meant 300,000 people, and this was only the first batch of reinforcement. Due to the suddenness of the situation, even though everyone was prepared for it, they never thought that the war would break out so quickly. For a moment, everyone was flustered. However, everyone was experienced in the martial arts world. After a moment of panic, They all calmed down, quickly stabilized their positions, and began to move. Wang Dao took his team of killers and set off in the first wave on the first, second, and third airboats. Then it was the team that Li Guanyu personally led. The second wave followed. Just the second wave already had 99 flying ship. Next was the majority of the troops led by Meng Wuya. They reorganized themselves one by one. Those that were reorganized immediately boarded the flying ships and set off, while the rest continued to reorganize themselves. They waited for the following flying ships to speed towards purple cloud heavens in batches. On the other side, in the fairy forest, thousands of flying ships soared into the air. The elite elven army led by the 5 fairy gods could be said to be the most orderly team. All of them set off at once. A total of 5 million elven troops came out in full force. Dark cloud heavens, great overarching heavens, great western skies, green cloud heavens, red north heavens, south pole heavens. Everywhere in the heavens and earths of the heavens and earths were all covered in the clouds of war. Everyone sped along the way. A few messengers were replaced in a day. The first few messengers had long lost their voices from shouting. Bloody battle against the extraterrestrial demons. Recover purple cloud heavens. Eternity depends on this battle. Not only the official forces, but all the major sects in the heavens and earths were also eager to participate in the war. This time, the number of experts sent by the various sects was greatly unexpected. Because in the past, when the major sects participated in this kind of war, they would inevitably keep some disciples with good aptitude as the foundation of the sect. This was also to prevent any accidents, and also to have the capital to make a comeback. It was understandable. But this time, after it was said that it was a holy war launched by Minister Cheung Xiao, even those little fellows in the sects were clamoring one by one, insisting on participating in the war, and their attitudes were extremely firm and unshakable. This made the higher-ups in the sects feel as if their heads were about to explode. With such an unprecedented war situation, even if a saint-level expert went, he might not dare to say that he could come back alive. Perhaps his death would only be a matter of a blink of an eye. Why do you bunch of little brats who haven't even grown hair yet insist on going? Do you think this is a vacation for fun? But this bunch of little fellows were all resolute, and their reasons were very strong. I'm afraid this is the last battle against the extraterrestrial demons. There will definitely be no more extraterrestrial demons in the future. Besides, this is the holy war launched by Minister Chu. He's calling on all martial artists in the world to participate in the war, to do their part for Tianqiu, to do their part for our homeland. We are martial artists too. Naturally, we have to do our part for the holy war. The higher-ups of the sects rolled their eyes and were speechless for a long time. They really couldn't understand what was wrong with this bunch of little fellows. How much could their little strength be of use? With the aptitude of these children, leaving them for the future was the choice to shine brightly. How would the higher-ups of the major sects know that each of these little fellows came from Chu Yang's family? Towards Chu Yang, everyone was inexplicably grateful from the bottom of their hearts, constantly thinking of what they could do for their benefactor. Some time ago, when Chu Yang was being hunted down by Tianqiu, the little fellows wanted to go out and help. But at that time, they hadn't gained a firm foothold yet, and their own strength wasn't enough. They couldn't help at all. This reality made these little fellows so worried that they sighed and felt ashamed. This time, when Chu Yang launched the holy war, these little fellows were determined. No matter what, they had to participate. In the end, the higher-ups of these sects were pestered until they had no other choice. Besides, there were already instances of this bunch of little fellows leaving to participate in the war. Helpless, they could only grit their teeth and agree to bring them along to see the world. But it was also because of this that these sects had originally only planned to mobilize 1/5 or 1/3 of their manpower. But now, they had all increased their strength by 1-fold. To ensure the safety of these little ancestors. These were the future hopes of their sects, of course. What they didn't know was that it was precisely because of this holy war that these seeded contestants were allowed to participate in it that these sects were truly guaranteed to flourish for a long time to come. And after the older generation of experts had withered away, It was also these seeds that protected the Nine Heavens imperial court. To create countless legends for generations to come. And after this battle with the extraterrestrial demons, these seeds also truly united as one and became the true rulers of the Nine Heavens imperial court. After the Holy War, Chu Yang led the Nine Heavens imperial court for an extremely short period of time before he left to pursue the eternal path of the Great Tao. And the era that Chu Yang and the others were in was called the Era of the Throne. After Chu Yang left, it was these little fellows who led the way and ruled the Nine Heavens imperial court. Because these seeds of the major sects later revealed that they were people groomed by Minister Chu, the era that they ruled was called the Era of the Post-Minister. The front lines of the purple cloud heavens had already turned into a complete mess. After the arrival of the generations of Nine Tribulations sword masters, the entire battlefield was cut into many pieces by the Nine Tribulations battle formation. The Nine Tribulations battle formation weaved in and out of battle, slaughtering the extraterrestrial demons in a crushing manner. And in the distance, sharp whistles gradually sounded, and smoke and dust rose. That was obviously the extraterrestrial demon army that had already received the news and was on the way. Although the distance between the two parties was still far, the smoke and dust that rose into the sky in the distance almost completely covered the entire blue sky. In the face of such an astonishing scene, Chu Yang and the others frowned deeply. The opposing party turned out to be an extraterrestrial demon army of at least 10 million or more. And on their side, even if Wu Yequang's original army and the subordinates of the original Nine Tribulations brothers were added in, at the very most, there were less than 20,000 people. Although everyone was an expert and their high-end combat power far surpassed the enemy's, but how should they fight this battle exactly? This was no longer a question of whether they could win or not, it was a question of whether they could stop the enemy directly. Everyone was confident that their own safety shouldn't be too big of a problem. With so many experts gathered here, even if there were casualties, it wouldn't be an easy thing to do. However, once the enemy's 10 million strong army charged in from the 10,000 miles of defensive line, how could they stop it with just the few people here? This was an extremely serious and unavoidable problem. Even if only a few tens of thousands of extraterrestrial demons charged in, it would be a huge disaster for the ordinary people in the Nine Heavens imperial court. Chu Le-er's poison had long been used up. After creating tens of thousands of extraterrestrial demon corpses, she simply lit a fire and set it ablaze. There's no way to defend. Chu Yang, Mo Tianji, Xue Leihan, and the others were extremely troubled by this problem. Originally, when there was white fog, no matter how strong and special one's divine consciousness was, it couldn't penetrate the white fog and no one could fly. The first bridge was, of course, a natural stronghold in reality. After losing the barrier of the white fog, the so-called first bridge and the abyss under the first bridge became a joke. They only needed one leap to pass through it. It was as if it was a passageway. And in the long battles between the extraterrestrial demons, which of those who were qualified to gather near the first bridge were mediocre at all? Today was really a difficult labor. I squeezed it out like toothpaste. My mind was full of thoughts, but I felt like it was a mess and I couldn't sort them out. Searched the Yunlai Pavilion for 100 times, read 10,000 books for free. Yunlage. Chapter 2703. These ordinary extraterrestrial demons might not be able to withstand a single blow from Chu Yang and the rest, the 9 emperors and the previous generations of the 9 tribulations, but that didn't mean that they were powerless. Chu Yang and the rest had no way of defending against these people. The absolute gap in strength couldn't be made up with numbers. But as long as these extraterrestrial demons rushed into the hinterland of Heaven Imperial City and faced the ordinary people of Heaven Imperial City, they would become an existence of absolute strength. That would be an unprecedented disaster. As time passed, although everyone still looked calm on the surface, in fact, everyone's heart was on fire. Dong Wushang, why isn't your vanguard here yet? Mo Tianji finally lost his composure and couldn't help but flare up. Must you transfer troops from the capital? Can't the garrison troops come spontaneously to eliminate the extraterrestrial demons? Could it be that you're an idiot and your subordinates are idiots as well? Dong Wushang was full of anger. He immediately ordered, "You bunch of idiots. Why aren't the garrison troops coming? Quickly come and help." The other side replied, "The garrison troops have already set off for a day and a half." Then, another message came, "The first batch of the garrison troops has already met the extraterrestrial demon army that broke into Heaven Imperial City." Both sides are fighting fiercely and the situation is extremely tragic. Dong Wushang couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He wasn't afraid of the tragic situation, but he was afraid that the extraterrestrial demons would invade. That would be the end of everything. He calmed down a little and turned to find trouble with Mo Tianji, but found that this guy had already slipped away. At this time, Zi Xiecheng and Mo Qingwu finally broke through the obstacles. They joined forces with the remaining people of Purple Clouds. "You are Princess." The leading elder looked at Zi Xiecheng excitedly. Zi Xiecheng raised her hand and the Purple Cloud's Emperor's seal fell down and landed in her palm. She used the most direct and purest method to prove her identity. "I am the daughter of the Purple Cloud's Emperor, Zi Xiecheng." Other things could be faked or impersonated, but the identity of the Purple Cloud's Emperor's descendant couldn't be fake. The Purple Cloud's Emperor's seal was the most direct and unquestionable evidence. If one wasn't a direct descendant of the Purple Cloud's Emperor's bloodline, it couldn't be activated. Witnessing everything happening in front of them and witnessing the Purple Cloud's Emperor's seal's long-lost brilliance. All the remnant citizens of Zixiao burst into tears. They were inexplicably excited and no longer had any doubts. With a loud shout, everyone knelt down neatly and paid their respects to Zi Xiecheng, the descendant of Zi Hao. "Greetings, Your Highness." The heavens took pity on him. "We are the descendants of the great heroes of Purple Cloud. There's also the day when I return to Purple Cloud and bring glory to the world." Zi Xiecheng saw the situation in front of her and was similarly overwhelmed with emotions. She almost shed tears. "Seniors, please rise. I dare not accept such a great gesture from you. Xiecheng has been away for many years, and I've always been ashamed that I haven't done anything for Zixiao Heavens. It's because of all of you that Zixiao Heavens has been supporting Zixiao Heavens to this day, and that Zixiao Heavens' name has never fallen. Here. On behalf of my parents, I thank you." He said it out loud. Countless old survivors of the Purple Cloud tribe burst into tears. Their snot and tears flowed down their faces uncontrollably. Thinking of all the hardships, sacrifices, and encounters over the years, everyone couldn't help but feel sorrow in their hearts, choking with sobs. "As long as Your Highness returns, Zixiao Heavens will have a descendant, and there will be hope for Zixiao Heavens to regain its glory. All our hard work will have meaning. We will have no regrets even if we die." An old man with white hair and beard trembling slightly on the ground said in a choked voice. Zi Xiecheng couldn't help but feel sorrow in her heart. This old man also had the cultivation of a high-level saint. For an expert of this level, not to mention his combat power, he had already exceeded the limit of his lifespan and could control the aging of his body. However, he had already aged to such an extent now. All of this already explained too many problems. What kind of immense pressure had this old man been under all these years? "Everyone." Zi Xiecheng's eyes were red. She took a deep breath and said, "We'll talk about all matters of Purple Cloud after the battle. Today's battle is the most important thing to Purple Cloud Heavens. Our top priority now is to bring glory to Purple Cloud Heavens. As for the 9 Heavens Imperial Court, the 10 Heavens and Earth have already been activated at the same time, preparing to exterminate the extraterrestrial demons and bring glory to Purple Cloud Heaven." Zi Xiecheng introduced the current situation concisely. Everyone's blood was boiling as they listened. They breathed heavily. Finally, had this day finally arrived? Was Purple Cloud Heavens finally going to return to the embrace of the Imperial Court? From now on, it would no longer be occupied by the extraterrestrial demons and would no longer be invaded by other races. It's just that, because of some unforeseen events, the prelude to this counterattack has started prematurely. Currently, the situation is unprecedentedly grim, and our mission has become very important. Zi Xiecheng said, "The white fog at the first bridge has been completely eliminated because of that unforeseen event. However, because this unforeseen event came too suddenly, the other heavens and earth are not fully prepared yet. The combat power that can be mobilized now is only us for the time being. With the white fog gone, we have to stop the extraterrestrial demon army from infiltrating the imperial court. So we have to guard here. That white-haired old man's gaze became extremely sharp. Just like a nail nailed here, completely stopping the reinforcements of the extraterrestrial demon army. Sheching took a deep breath and said, "Yes, that's it." Upon hearing that, everyone was silent for a while. This was the first time there was an awkward silence since Sheching revealed her identity. Although it was only for a moment, it was a real awkward silence. Sheching was not surprised by this awkward silence. This was within her expectations. This was human nature. Everyone had the mentality of self-preservation, especially these remnants of purple cloud heavens who had been abandoned by the Nine Heavens Imperial Court for countless years. Everyone knew what Sheching meant. In the past, they were able to struggle at death's door. Apart from their own unyielding character, they also relied on guerrilla warfare tactics. They tried their best to hide, and only then could they barely survive. But this time, they had to use a frontal attack. And they were facing the entire extraterrestrial demon army, the strongest extraterrestrial demon elite. This time, if they really did so, the day of their destruction was really in sight. It was very likely that the last remaining forces of purple cloud heavens would all be buried here in one go. That white-haired old man pondered for a while and said, "Your Highness, I only want to know how many days we have to hold out for this wave of attack. I need to know an exact time." Sheching said softly, "At least 3 days. 3 days. I got it." The white-haired old man took a deep breath, his eyes shining with determination. "At this moment, we can't guarantee, really can't guarantee, that we can hold out for 3 days, but since the battle situation is so urgent, it has indeed reached the final critical juncture. We, the remnants of purple cloud heavens, can only guarantee one thing. There is only one thing." He suddenly stood up, his body upright. His white hair danced wildly in the wind. His eyes were like lightning. Sweeping his gaze across the densely packed brothers and sisters behind him, he said loudly, "We can only guarantee, before we are all dead, the extraterrestrial demons must not take a step forward." "Yes." 1,000,000 people shouted at the same time. "That's right. This is the promise of us, the people of purple cloud heavens. We can only guarantee that before we are all dead, the extraterrestrial demons must not take a step forward from our side. Even if we have to fight to the last soldier, we will never retreat. Forever purple cloud, never retreat." The white-haired old man raised his arms and shouted, "Forever purple cloud, forever purple cloud. Heroes of the world. Only I, Zhao. Forever purple cloud, never retreat." Millions of people shouted at the same time. Then, as if on a pilgrimage, they prostrated themselves before the purple cloud emperor seal. They were so pious. In the distant forest, there were still countless remnants of purple cloud heavens rushing over. Seeing this scene, they all knelt down. Hot tears filled their eyes, and they shouted themselves hoarse. "Forever purple cloud, forever purple cloud. Only I, Zhao, hero of the world. Forever purple cloud, never retreat." Such a majestic voice reverberated in the sky for a long time. In the sky, the wind and clouds surged, suppressing the monstrous aura of the extraterrestrial demons in the distance. The people of purple cloud heavens, the remnants of purple cloud heavens, no one could remain unmoved and no one could underestimate them. In all fairness, the people of purple cloud heavens really shouldn't bear such casualties and the fate of being annihilated. So what if the extraterrestrial demon horde entered the interior of Heaven Imperial Court? They would still die. What was the difference between the people of purple cloud heavens and those of Heaven Imperial Court? The people of purple cloud heavens had already sacrificed too much blood and tears for this piece of Heaven Imperial Court. After a long period of being invaded, they finally saw a glimmer of hope. However, when the glimmer of hope arrived, it didn't bring hope, but an extremely heavy request, a request that could cost countless lives. But the people of Purple Cloud Heavens still fought without hesitation. Only I, Zhao, hero of the world. Forever Purple Cloud, never retreat. Zhi Xieching suppressed the sour impulse in her heart and said in a choked voice, I know that all the people of Purple Cloud Heavens are heroes. I've always known. I, Zhi Xieching, can only guarantee one thing. When you fight, as long as you're still fighting, I'll definitely be there. Until the last soldier of Purple Cloud Heavens, I'll definitely be one of them. If we're destined to be annihilated here, then among the thousands of corpses of our compatriots, I'll definitely be one. Zhi Xieching hereby swears that we'll live and die together with the people of Purple Cloud Heavens. This is our spirit, the spirit of all the people of Purple Cloud Heavens. Everyone was shocked upon hearing this and said anxiously, Your Highness, you're the last pillar of support of Purple Cloud Heavens. No matter what, nothing must happen to you. Otherwise, how can we face His Majesty the Celestial Emperor? You can't talk about life and death so easily. Am I not from Purple Cloud Heavens? Not a part of Purple Cloud Heavens. Zhi Xieching's face was calm and she said softly, Purple Cloud Heavens, the reputation of Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor, can't be tarnished by me. I've made up my mind, there's no need to persuade me anymore. Since I'm the descendant of Zhao, I naturally have to bear more responsibility. How can the reputation of Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor be tarnished because of me? Chapter 2704. The white-haired elder and the remnants of purple clouds looked at Zhi Xieching, their eyes full of gratitude and relief. There was no sadness or desolation from the impending war and the impending doom. You are indeed the daughter of the Heavenly Emperor of Purple Clouds, the Princess of Purple Cloud's heaven. Your temperament is exactly the same as the Heavenly Emperor of Purple Cloud. The few elders almost burst into tears. Zhi Xieching shouted, Now, please allow me to give an order in the name of my father. People of Purple Cloud's heaven, listen to my order. The Heavenly Emperor of Purple Clouds, Zhao, hereby gives the order. Yes, Your Majesty. Go through fire and water. Be smashed into pieces. Die 1,000 times. Purple Cloud's heaven will never retreat. Millions of people knelt down at the same time and roared in unison. All of them felt their blood boiling, as if their bodies were about to explode. Everyone seemed to see the mighty and invincible Heavenly Emperor of Purple Clouds again. He was still dressed in military attire, standing in front of them like a lofty mountain. His majestic and fiery gaze was looking at them and the others. In the distant place of Muduan, the heavenly demon army had already appeared, turning into dark clouds in the sky, as if to bring endless haze to the world. People of Purple Clouds, heaven must fight with all their might. Kill all the heavenly demons and restore the glory of Purple Clouds Mountain. Zhi Xieching's voice was low, but it shook the earth and sky. Even if there is only one soldier left, people of Purple Clouds heaven will never retreat. Never retreat. Everyone roared at the same time. Fight. Zhi Xieching unsheathed her sword, and the magnificent sword light shone in the sky. But a red robe fluttered, and she rushed out first. Mo Qingwu didn't say a word from beginning to end. Following Zhi Xieching, she walked with the 9 heavens dance steps. But this scene made all the remnants of Purple Clouds heaven choke at the same time. It was as if they were seeing a scene they hadn't seen for a long time. It was like this back then. The Heavenly Emperor of Purple Clouds, Zhao, and his wife, Ling Piaoping, were like this. One was strong and mighty, while the other was graceful and danced in the sky. They rushed towards the heavenly demons without hesitation. Everything. It was as if it had completely reappeared today. It wasn't just the Heavenly Emperor of Purple Clouds heaven. Celestial Empress also had a descendant who came to Purple Clouds heaven. All the survivors of the Purple Cloud tribe were so excited that their hearts were about to explode. Behind him, the Purple Cloud army was organized according to their formation, under the command of the white-haired old man. They lined up one by one in an orderly manner. Like a torrent of steel, it gradually took shape and then surged out. He did not back down at all as he faced the heavenly demon. Your Highness, ahead is the purple firmament desert. There is no way to defend here. The only way is to advance another 25 kilometers. Everyone, block the heavenly demon army at Boundary Mountain. That's the only place we can rely on. The white-haired old man suggested. The Boundary Mountain that descended from the heavens was insurmountable. An indestructible barrier, that place is the most suitable location for this battle. All right, Zi Sheqing said without hesitation, Elder, I will listen to your commands. Today, I will be your vanguard. Your Highness, you are exaggerating. The white-haired old man hesitated and finally asked, Your Highness, why do you seem to be wearing wedding clothes? Zi Sheqing blushed and said, Yes, just a few days ago, it was the day of my wedding. It was also on that day that I fought a decisive battle with the culprit of my father's death, the Imperial Court Saint, Cloud Master. This battle has been going on until today. Cloud Master finally died, but even if he died, he still wanted to harm all living beings. He also self-destructed at the last moment and destroyed the white fog of the Imperial Court barrier. That led to the early arrival of this battle. Cloud Master is a complete scumbag. The white-haired old man gritted his teeth and scolded angrily. But he finally understood and said, Congratulations to your Highness on your wedding. I just don't know which young hero, this honor. His eyes were full of concern. Like an elder who was worried about the happiness of his juniors. Or like a grandfather who was worried about whether his granddaughter had married the wrong person. Zi Sheqing blushed again and said, It's the current minister of the Nine Heavens Imperial Court, Chu Yang. The white-haired old man was stunned again. Worry was written all over his face. He said sadly, Your Highness, you have been wronged, really wronged. He sighed, almost tearing up. He said bitterly, I don't know how old this Minister Chu is. Sigh. We are useless. We can't protect you and actually let you be wronged like this. How can we face the late emperor? Zi Sheqing was stunned when she heard that. Mo Qingwu, who was beside him, almost laughed out loud even though they were in such a dangerous situation where danger lurked everywhere and their hearts were heavy. This old man seemed to have misunderstood, and it was a huge misunderstanding. How old was he? Did this old man think that Minister Chu was as old as himself? But she didn't know that this old man really thought so. So much so that he even imagined many things in his mind. Could it be that for the sake of reviving the purple cloud heavens, for the sake of sacrificing her own body in order to get that Minister Cheung Xiao to help her take revenge? Not to mention anything else, for someone to be able to kill a saint monarch, without a cultivation of a few million years, how could that be done? But Her Highness' sacrifice was really too great. Such a sacrifice was simply shocking to the heavens and earth. She had no regrets sacrificing herself for the sake of a part of the world. The more he thought about it, the more ashamed he felt. He almost wanted to commit suicide to atone for his sins. If Minister Chu were here, or if he had heard these words, he would have wept bitterly. He would have been in so much pain that he would have wished for death. He would have been sullen to death. How is your princess aggrieved and sacrificed? I'm only in my early 20s, okay? If we're talking about longevity, your princess is the one who's... Well, I'm the one who's being eaten up by someone younger than me. Of course, even if a certain minister was here, regardless of whether Zi Sheqing was here or not, he wouldn't dare to say it out loud no matter how much grievance he felt. It wasn't wrong for a man to be afraid of his wife. Especially when it came to the issue of each other's age. He didn't dare to make a sound. Zi Sheqing coughed a few times. A trace of embarrassment and redness flashed across her fair and tender face. She said awkwardly, No. You've misunderstood. Chu Yang is very good to me. He's not too old. The wife still felt sorry for her husband, especially when her husband was misunderstood to such an extent. He was already old. She was really unhappy to say it out loud. Very good to you? This can be taken for granted. The white-haired old man nodded sadly. Her Highness the Princess has sacrificed so much. This Minister Chu is able to obtain your favor in his old age. How can he be considered to have a little conscience? Sigh. On the other side, Mo Qingwu was already out of breath. She didn't know if she was angry, happy, or not knowing whether to laugh or cry. At this moment, she really didn't know what to say. It was the same for Zi Sheqing and Mo Qingwu. Zi Xieching frowned. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You've really misunderstood. Chu Yang and I. We're poor friends. We've always been in love. And, actually, that Chu Yang is much younger than me. Cough cough. Oh. The white-haired old man realized that he had made a mistake. He was extremely embarrassed and said, This. Congratulations, Your Highness. You're a match made in heaven. A talented man and a beautiful woman. Give birth to a child soon. Generations to come. Zi Xieching was speechless again. Old man, those are all small matters. Our battle today is very important. The success or failure of today's battle will all depend on you. Zi Xieching hurriedly changed the topic. Although she was born a long time after her parents died, her actual age was indeed much older than Chu Yang. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that she was an old cow eating young grass. Faced with this question, a certain elder sister had always been a little embarrassed. Your Highness, please don't worry. I'll definitely do my best. The old man's face was full of embarrassment. I'll go and command the army now. We must stop the advance of the heavenly demon army. He left as if he was running away. Sigh, what am I thinking in my head? I'm really too embarrassed. But since the princess has found a suitable husband, all the more I can't let anything happen to her. Fighting on their wedding night, sigh, this girl really has a hard life. In the battle later, I must send someone to protect the princess. If I can prevent her from fighting, I'll try my best to prevent her from fighting. We have a lot of troops on our side now. There's still hope to stall for 3 days. Mo Qingwu calculated as she ran forward. It's far from enough. Zi Xieching frowned. The survivors of Purple Cloud are scattered all over the place. Although it's not easy for us to gather so many of them in such a short period of time, it shouldn't be the limit. There should still be a large number of them who haven't arrived yet. Based on the current numbers, although there are many of them, those who can really participate in the battle and compete with the Sky Demons are at most 500,000. Compared to the army of Sky Demons, this military strength is like a drop in the ocean. Zi Xieching frowned. And once the heavenly demon army comes, there will be at least 10 million of them, and their numbers will only increase. The battle situation is not optimistic. Zi Xieching pulled Mo Qingwu. Let's hurry up. The heavenly demon army is coming soon. Don't let them take over the Boundary Division Mountain first. Mo Qingwu nodded. She immediately sped up and rushed to the Boundary Division Mountain. Before this, the entire Purple Cloud's heavens was almost occupied by the heavenly demons. Therefore, the geographical location of the Boundary Division Mountain was not very important. There were also no special resources. Naturally, it became one of the places that was not valued. But the situation now was different. The Nine Heavens Imperial Court's natural chasm had been lost. The Boundary Division Mountain had instead become another battlefield that could be used by both sides. The importance of this was imaginable. Therefore, even though Zi Xieching and the rest were rushing forward with all their might, the heavenly demons were also rushing forward without any regard for their life. Everyone on the heavenly demons side knew that if the remnants of Purple Clouds were to take over the Boundary Division Mountain first, it was very likely that they would be able to hold on until the heavenly Imperial Court's reinforcements arrive. When that time came, it would definitely be 100 times more difficult than the current chaotic situation. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.